Hello, BookTube. You're going to have to forgive me tonight. I have developed some kind of little cough. I know there's a new COVID variant about, but I really don't think it's that because I've really had nothing but a cough, no other bad symptoms. So we're going to carry on tonight and do a review, a non-fiction review. My YouTube viewing analytics, they're not impressive. I'm still small, but they're telling nonetheless. Of all the videos that I've made to date, the one that comes up top in terms of the most hits is, I think it was my third review of Gore Vidal's Myra Breckenridge, of all things. I have absolutely no idea why that video gets so much attention. I recorded it before I had my present webcam and microphone, and so the sound was not great. The photographs are good, yeah, but they don't have anything to do with Gore Vidal, except the shot of the Noel Coward Theatre where I saw James Graham's 2022 play Best of Enemies, which was about the 1968 televised debates between Vidal and William F. Buckley. My best guess is also a confession. When I was growing up in the 1970s, way back, yeah, I knew the name Gore Vidal. And it's very possible I saw him on television because he would accept offers to appear on talk shows, game shows. He was apparently on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, which we used to watch a lot. I also knew, but I couldn't say how, I knew that Vidal had a reputation for sarcasm and biting put-downs, but that's it. That was the sum total of my knowledge that I took with me to the Noel Coward Theatre, and when the play finished, I found I couldn't quite let that be that, right? I had to read Myra Breckenridge, but having done that, I still wasn't satisfied. I had to know the man. Don't know why. So I looked out several biographies, and this is about the one that I chose to read. It is Every Time a Friend Succeeds, Something Inside Me Dies. The Life of Gore Vidal by Jay Parini. That's the one we're going to look at. Now, I should explain the photographs. This first photograph of hard-boiled eggs, I mean, you must be wondering, what on earth? What's the relevance? Well, Gore Vidal loved food, but he loved food so much that sometimes he had to cut back. And when he was dieting, all he would have for breakfast and lunch is just coffee and 2 hard-boiled eggs. But the photographs after this, the food gets a lot better. So, stick around for that, if nothing else. So let's summarize this book. This is a biography of Gore Vidal that he never got to see. There was a biography written while he was alive by Fred Kaplan in 1999. If Kaplan thought the critics were unkind, that was nothing compared to Vidal. Reportedly, he threw the book across the room. Now, to be fair, Kaplan hadn't been Gore Vidal's first choice. He had asked his friend, Jay Parini, an award-winning journalist, poet, and novelist, if he would take on the task. Now, about this request, Parini says, quote, "My wife perceptively insisted that I decline, saying that I would have to choose between the biography and my friendship. I couldn't have both. She understood that he would try to control what I wrote at every turn, driving us both insane. So I decided then to write a book that could only be published after his death, a frank yet fond look at the man I admired, even loved, and who had preoccupied me for such a long time." Well, that kind of sounded like my feelings. I was strangely attracted to Gore Vidal, even though I knew he probably really pissed off a lot of people. But I wanted to know who he was, even so. So the book, when it was released in the United States, was called Empire of Self. Right, so US viewers, if you are looking out for this book, you want to look out for it under the title Empire of Self by Jay Parini. So in the UK, of course, the culture here takes joy in what Sathnam Sanghera calls heroic failure. So, of course, we have to have a more self-deprecating title to attract us. And also, I think, something which suggests that the great Emperor of Self could laugh at himself once in a while. Next question. What is known about our author, Jay Parini? Well, I recommend dropping by his website, jayparini.com, of course, for the portrait photography alone. I mean, my favorite is this picture on Jay's biography page, right, where he's standing in a kitchen in front of this amazing, huge stainless steel range, right, and he's wearing a tough, expressionless kind of celebrity face that you do for photo shoots, but he's wearing this denim apron with a frill at the bottom. So I just thought, oh, that tells me a lot about the man. Now, it would take less time, however, to talk about what Jay Parini has not written. Wow. 6 books of poetry, 8 novels, 5 biographies, including this one, 5 additional nonfiction books, and a memoir. Okay? He's edited the Oxford Encyclopedia of American Literature, the Columbia History of American Poetry, the Columbia Anthology of American Poetry, and the Norton Book of American Autobiography. And we're not done yet. We're not done yet. He has 3 honorary degrees, and at this point, even his website copywriters must have got tired of counting, so I can't tell you exactly how many fellowships or awards have been bestowed on him. Somehow, along with all this prolific scribbling, he remains on the faculty of Middlebury College as one of the lecturers in their creative writing program. How is this book structured? It's 557 pages long, the Kindle edition, that is, of which only 411 are text. So there's a good bit of paratextual material. You've got 55 photographs, the usual acknowledgements, notes, and a subject index. Now, the text itself, it's 13 chapters plus a conclusion. And so that averages 30 pages per chapter. But before you're thinking, oof, those are long, Parini's very good. He divides the chapters into sections, no fewer than 4 and no more than 8. And they break the text into what I found were really nice chunks if you could only read at a short sitting. Next question, why did I choose to read this book? Well, on top of everything I've already said, it's probably more interesting to talk about the book I almost bought but didn't. Yeah, while I was in Hay-on-Wye this last April, searching for an antiquated copy of Myra Breckenridge, I came across a second-hand, good condition, hardcover copy of Palimpsest, which is Gore's memoir, which covers his life up to about the end of the 1970s, early 80s, I think. There wasn't anyone else in that part of the second-hand bookshop, so I think I must have spent about a good half an hour, 45 minutes just flipping through Palimpsest, stopping to read a page or two in different places. Now, bear in mind, this is my first impression of Gore Vidal, right? My first impression was that he might be the least reliable person to tell his own story, the least reliable person to describe himself. And it was also my impression, clearly from the book, that he disliked a lot of people. Then I could draw on personal experience and conclude that the kind of people like Gore Vidal, who dislike a lot of others, a lot of people dislike them right back. And so, okay, I sympathize with those who disliked Gore Vidal, yes, because they probably had valid reasons for their feelings. They wouldn't be the right people to tell his story either. So then I knew that whatever biography I chose, it would have to be written by a friend, but written in a way that allowed that friend to be honest. And Jay Parini had the friend qualification, but he was also wise enough not to publish the book until after Gore Vidal died in 2012, so he could be honest without running the risk of becoming another one of those disliked people. How did I get this book, and how much did it cost? As much as I wanted to read a biography of Gore Vidal, I didn't want it taking up space, what little there is left, yes, you can see behind me, on my bookshelves. So I bought a Kindle copy, and I'm starting to value my Kindle greatly now, with nonfiction especially, because the text is so easy to search and to annotate. I mark up pages I think will be useful for the review. I add some thoughts, and then it's just a matter of scrolling through that collection and I pick out the best bits. Have I encountered anything unexpected or interesting in the biography? I expected to know more about Gore Vidal when I finished the biography, and I did, but in some ways I'm not sure that I actually know him better. But here's some things that really surprised me. 1, he was better at writing nonfiction. Jay Parini felt that Gore excelled most at essay writing, whereas his fiction could be genius in places, but less consistently so. I was not aware, before the biography, that Vidal had written stage plays and screenplays, or that he was often called on by Hollywood producers to kind of tidy up a poor script that was written by somebody else. So that's that. 2, he was comfortable being sexual with men, but not comfortable with wearing a sexual label. So on page 101 of the book, Parini says, quote, he, Vidal, set in motion a lifetime of asserting that there were no homosexuals, only homosexual acts. He would continue to refer to himself as bisexual, and to a degree this may have been true, yet his primary attachment to men puts him mainly in the gay camp, however much He protested against such categorizing. And 3, he could absorb and instantly recall facts about the American political scene, about American and Roman history, yet he remained shockingly ignorant about subjects you were certain might matter to him, such as the AIDS crisis in the 1980s. This is a quote from page 317. Steve Abbott, Gore's bibliographer and friend, says Gore and Howard were amazingly uneducated as late as 2001 about the transmission of HIV. Gore told me that Nureyev came several times to visit and swim naked in their pool. He expressed concern that he and Howard might be exposed to AIDS. I told him not to worry unless they had sex or shared a needle with him. Abbott considered it astounding that Gore could be so totally uninformed about the disease at that late date. And 4, in Vidal's will, he left virtually all his property to Harvard University. Even though he did not have a Harvard degree, not even an honorary one, and even though he had a lot of younger relatives who'd helped care for him during his final years. Is there anything readers should be prepared for if they decide to go ahead and read this book? Be prepared to wonder at how Gore Vidal could attract so many people into his personal orbit and keep close friends like Jay Parini for years, close friends like Princess Margaret for years, while at the same time he was repelling, insulting, and badly treating so many people. And sometimes it was the same people. Gore Vidal's life is the parable which illustrates that truism that we all know, even though we wish it could be untrue. The fact that having a lot of money and fame does not compensate for a lack of real self-love. Gore Vidal struggled to love himself, struggled to believe he was respected or accomplished, constantly sought attention, but no amount of attention was ever sufficient. Is there anything else interesting to know about the book? I would probably have been terrified of Gore Vidal if we'd only been a casual acquaintance. I would have kept my distance and yet stayed close enough to catch some of his sharp, witty remarks, like this one, where Vidal critiques this passage from John Updike's novel, From the Beauty of the Lilies. This is the passage from the novel first. The hoarse, receding note drew his consciousness to a fine point, and while that point hung in his skull star-like, he fell asleep upon the adamant bosom of the depleted universe. Okay, and in response, Vidal asks, might Updike not have allowed one blind noun to slip free of its seeing eye adjective? That made me laugh out loud, and I was wearing noise-cancelling headphones, so I forgot that I was sitting in the room with the television, and I think the person who watches that television may have missed a bit of crucial dialogue in the show that he was watching. Finally, any ideas for related or follow-up reading? Jay Parini's biography, it's very protective of Gore Vidal's privacy, which you might expect from a friend. It's pretty quiet about his sex life. If that feels like an incomplete portrait and you want to know more, there is a 2013 book by Tim Tiemann called In Bed with Gore Vidal. And if that isn't salacious enough, there is also the book by Darwin Porter and Danforth Prince titled Pink Triangle, which talks in more detail about the weird combative interactions that happened between Gore Vidal, Truman Capote, and Tennessee Williams. I mean, it doesn't do anything for me, but you know, if you like that kind of thing, there it is. Okay, we can sum up, and I'm so grateful. My voice has lasted. I only had to pause the camera to cough once. Thank you very much for your patience. Hopefully I'll be better by the weekend. For myself, when I finished Jay Parini's biography, I felt a really strong need for some kind of contrast, you know, a move away from the celebrity crowded high life that had been so much a part of that book. I felt a need for some reading material that would put my feet back on the ground. What I'm currently reading is a 2021 Sunday Times bestseller. Hopefully I can hold it up for the camera. Yeah. It's called The Madness of Grief by the Reverend Richard Coles. He's better known in the UK as I don't know. I don't even know who's A-list or B-list. I don't think he's A-list. I think he's B, C-ish celebrity in the UK. And this is his memoir that helped him through a personal loss. Fiction-wise, we are 40% of the way through Richard Adams' Watership Down. I was on the verge of making a rant video because the reading was getting, more dutiful than pleasurable. And then the story headed off in a new direction. And so now it's interesting again. So we're good. We're good. Thanks very much, everybody, for checking out this review. I'm going to get to work so that you have another one on Sunday. Take care. Bye-bye.